Hi there, Andre here from Peak Motorcycles. In this video I will be talking about this new bike which is behind me. So I'm very excited about this. This is my new YouTube bike for 2022. I still have a few things I need to do to my CRF 300, but mostly I'll be riding that. So I thought I'd get another bike that I could do some mods to, and I was looking around at what might be interesting for 2022, both for me and for people who watch the channel. I did think about a Himalayan because I've wanted one of those for a while, but having seen what Cooper do with their Overlanders, I think a lot of the modifications that can be done have already been done and there's people doing it really well. So I thought I'd try something new. So this bike behind me is the new Royal Enfield Scram 411 for 2022. It's based on the Himalayan, which you may know as being their very, very successful 411cc single adventure bike. Except this one has had the scrambler treatment. I'll stop talking at the camera and I'll give you a close look at it. And here it is. And for those of you who are familiar with the Himalayan, a lot of this will look familiar. It's got the same tubular frame developed by Harris Performance here in the UK. It does actually even say Himalayan on it next to the Scram 411. And yeah, it's definitely styled a bit more like a scrambler. So it doesn't have the extra tubes, the extra load carrying capacity on the sides or on the back. It doesn't have the big fairing that the Himalayan has. And yeah, instead there's a few changes. So if I come around to the front, you'll be able to see it's got this new sort of front sort of headlamp assembly. And then the clocks sit quite nicely within that. I'll come to the clocks in a minute. And as you can see, it does have this 19-inch front wheel, which some people have said is a bit small for an adventure bike. But bear in mind that the R1250 GS also has a 19-inch front wheel and a 17-inch rear. So it's definitely in good company. So what else can I show you on here? So right round the back end, the tail tidy, it's, you know, like many manufacturers have to make them so they cover the back wheel, but that's not terrible. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the indicators. I think they do look kind of retro. Maybe that's the aim, but that's something that can be easily changed. And then coming around on this side, it's got quite a nice looking stock exhaust. I don't know how heavy it is. I suspect, like many, it's very functional. It meets the emissions requirements, but it doesn't necessarily have to be lightweight. But I think from a looks perspective, I think that's pretty good. I've seen plenty worse. So coming up and over the bike, it does have these little red things on the side. I think they look okay from a styling perspective. If you look around the back, you can see that they're actually just on a stick in there. So I guess it's actually some crash protection, albeit with some styling that goes with it. So my bike is a graphite bike with graphite and red. So it's everything is mostly the same except for the lettering on the side of the bike in here, the rim tape on the wheels, and this red panel on the side. Something else that's new for the Scram is this one-piece seat, which looks slightly different to the one on the Himalayan. Having only done a couple of rides on it, it is really, really comfortable. You know, far more than I thought. I mean, there's a little bit of cushioning in there, but compared to the stock seat on the Himalayan, I actually prefer this. It also comes with this grab rail as standard, which, you know, it's quite nice in that it's got, you know, places to actually tie something to. So if you just wanted to put a bag on the back of it, then it comes like that out of the box. It's not something extra you have to buy. Coming up to the bars, it has these quite functional mirrors. You know, they don't look terrible, they don't look amazing, but they are what they are. Controls are quite well laid out. We've got the horn, signals, high beam, low beam, and if I just come around in there, there is a flasher switch as well, which is a nice touch on a bike at this price point. Handlebars themselves look steel, look very similar to those that were on the Himalayan. And up on this side we have the kill switch, warning lights, starter button, and if I come around the other side, there is this information button with an eye on it, which is used to set the clocks and do other things on there. So the next thing I'd like to show you is how the dash lights up, and it uses these quite snazzy looking double-sided Royal Enfield keys. So I'll just pop that in, and there you go. So we have the dash on the left, which has a time, fuel gauge, even a gear selector, as well as two different trip meters. And on the right-hand side, we have the trip and navigation. Now I know that when they filmed a promo video for this, it was actually in Edale where I live, where they had a couple of meteors riding up on the wrong side of the road up to Mamnik. But yeah, it looked quite good. I haven't really had a chance to use it, but I will do a short video about how to set that up. So the next thing I'll do is I'll start it up and you can see what it sounds like. And there we go. So if you have a look at the dash there, you can just see that's now done a quick run up to the top and then back. And I'm not sure if you can hear that very well on the video, but I'll bring this around the back if that makes a difference. you know, it is very much a sort of putt-putt sound. It's definitely not loud, it's definitely not offensive, and when riding, it's quite pleasant. I mean, it does chug along. It isn't something where you're going to go roaring through places, but it isn't supposed to be, and actually I quite like it. It's definitely got a little bit more about it than the one on the 350 Meteor, but it is a bigger engine, so there's an extra 60 cc's of exhaust gases to displace. The next thing I want to look at is the wheels and tyres. So as you can see, it's got these CEAT Grip XLF tyres on it, 19-inch on the front, and that's 100/90/19 is the tyre size. Taking a look at the back wheel, this is also a seat tyre CEAT. It's a 120/90/17. It says nylon on it. Not sure how much to read into that, but they seem to have worked okay so far. It'll be interesting to see how they wear. They are tubed and they are spoked, and we do have ABS on the front and back. And if you look in there, you can just see that B on the rear brake caliper, and I think that's a Biber, I believe it's pronounced, or something like that. And that is, I think it's a Brembo brand, albeit at the more economically priced end of the market. Coming around to the front, we just have that one big disc, and again, we have the Biber caliper on the front there. You can also see in there that it does have an ABS wheel, because this bike does have ABS front and back as standard. So the last few things I just want to show you while I'm down here is, first of all, that it does indeed come with a bash guard, which is something that a lot of bikes don't, and it's something you have to buy aftermarket. It's made of alloy, it seems to be strong enough, and I can lift the bike on my pedal lift with that. The other thing it comes with is this radiator guard. I mean, it's only a very small radiator, and actually it looks like it's fairly robust, so maybe it doesn't even need it. But it is there. And again, these are all things that come on the bike, completely stock standard, out of the crate. So I'll also just give you a very quick look at the headlamp. So it only comes on when the engine's running. If you can see this very white light, which might be an LED at the bottom, that comes on all the time while the ignition is on. If you want a quick look at the indicators, I'll just turn the hazards on. There we go. And then let's give you a quick look around the back at how the rear lights work. So I thought it might be useful just to give you a quick look at the bike next to a few others. So the one on this end is clearly the Royal Enfield Scram. Next to it, which looks like a much smaller bike, is my Ducati Scrambler 800. A bigger engine, it's got that 800cc V-twin, but nevertheless, next to the Scram really does look like a full-size bike. Then we have my much videoed CRF 300, which again, that looks like a very similar sized bike. If you look at sort of the handlebar position from, where am I, here and over here, the handlebars are pretty much at the same height, which, given the lower seat on the Scram, probably explains why it's quite a comfortable bike to ride. And then the one we have at the end here is my Honda CB1000R, which again looks quite small next to the Scram. So I have had a few people who maybe assume that because it's got a 400cc engine that it really isn't a full-size bike. But you know, when I see it lined up like next to the others, I think after my GS, it's pretty much the biggest bike in my garage. So that's it. That's my quick look at the 2022 Royal Enfield Himalayan Scram 411. I've ridden it back from the dealer. It's been quite fun, if I'm honest. It's not done anything particularly quickly, but then it isn't supposed to. I'm looking forward to spending a lot more time over the coming year. Well, I'll be making a few changes and also trying it out on the lanes and the roads around the Peak District. If anyone who's been following the channel lately will know that I don't do the whole like and subscribe thing, but if you're interested in seeing more about the bike, do whatever suits you. Thanks very much for watching, and maybe I'll see you next time.